You know you've touched someone in a way that no one else has been able to. No matter how much this person tries to hide it, the truth is you've left a mark. You've awakened something in them that even they don't quite understand. They feel it. You feel it. But no one speaks about it. They watch you more than they should. They catch themselves thinking about you when they least expect it. They try to move on, but they always return to that moment, to that feeling. You've stirred their emotions, and no matter how much they try to act like nothing happened, their gaze gives them away. The silence speaks. The energy between you both has never faded. But what now? What happens when someone can't forget you? When your presence lingers even when you're not around? You know this story isn't over yet, but will they admit it? They think about you more than they'd like to confess. They've tried to ignore it. They've forced themselves to go on with life as if nothing happened. But it didn't work. Because some connections don't break just because someone decided it was for the best. They feel your presence at the most unexpected moments. When they hear something that reminds them of your voice, when they catch a glimpse of someone who looks like you and their heart races, only to realize it wasn't you, when they're distracted and suddenly find themselves whispering your name in their thoughts. And that's scary, because no one likes losing control over how they feel. No one enjoys admitting that someone has that kind of power to stir their mind, heart and soul, but you do. And the worst part is they know it. They try to pretend that they don't, but deep down, they are aware. It's that uncomfortable feeling that something remains unresolved, that there's still an invisible thread connecting you. A bond that hasn't unraveled, no matter how much time has passed. They miss you, but they don't want to concede, because admitting it would mean facing everything they've always tried to hide. So she distracts herself, occupies her mind, tries to fill the space you left. She goes out, talks, smiles, goes through her routine. But there are moments when none of that helps. In the middle of the night, when the world falls silent, it's your name that echoes. She picks up her phone, opens your chat, and quickly closes it again. She takes a deep breath, trying to convince herself that it doesn't make sense to text you. That you've probably moved on with your life, that maybe you don't even remember her anymore. But is that true? Or is it that somewhere inside of you that connection still exists? Fate has a strange way of playing with people's feelings. It creates unexpected encounters, makes songs play at just the right moment, places memories along the path when a person least expects them. It tests, provokes, and pushes in the right direction, and she feels it. She feels that this story isn't over, that there's still something left to happen. But will she have the courage to admit it, or will she continue pretending she feels nothing? What would you do if you knew that, right at this moment, someone is thinking about you? That this person still misses you but doesn't know how to break the silence? And what if I told you that she's waiting for a sign? Something to make her understand that you feel it too. What would you do? Would you let it go, or would you do something about it? And now, do you feel it? That tension that never completely fades? That thought that keeps coming back, even when you try to ignore it? Because no matter what happens, somehow that person always returns to your mind. And she feels it too. Maybe she tries to hide it. Maybe she fights against it, but deep down she knows there's something unfinished. Something that no matter how much she tries to bury it, keeps resurfacing at the most unlikely moments. Have you ever wondered how many times she was about to call you? How many times she picked up her phone, typed something, and then deleted it right away? Because the desire is there, but so is the fear. The fear of what could happen, of what might be stirred up again. She doesn't want to seem weak. She doesn't want to give the impression that she still cares, because acknowledging that would be like opening a door that might be hard to close afterward. Yet at the same time, she wonders if you feel the same way. If you also look at your phone waiting for a sign, if you carry that same doubt, that same wish, that same confusion. And you? Have you thought about sending a message? Have you wanted to break the silence? Or have you grown accustomed to this distance, pretending that you feel nothing? Because, believe it or not, that silence speaks too. It speaks of everything that was never said, of the things that lingered in the air, of what could have been different. But for how long? For how long will you both pretend that this connection doesn't exist, that everything was just a coincidence, something fleeting? You know it wasn't. She knows it wasn't. And even though life has moved on, even though time has passed, there's still something there. Do you feel it? That energy, that thought that keeps coming back. Because if you do, maybe it's not too late after all. But tell me, do you really want to keep ignoring this, or will you do something about it? You can pretend that you've moved on, but tell me the truth. How many times have you caught yourself thinking about this person without meaning to? How many times have you felt her presence, even when she's not around? Because this isn't just in your head, it's real. You can try to bury this connection. You can tell yourself that it's all in the past, that it was just a phase, that everything is behind you. But the past doesn't work that way. It doesn't invade your thoughts out of nowhere. It doesn't make her name come up in random places. It doesn't make your heart race just by imagining a reunion. And do you know what's worse? That person feels it too. And she knows she feels it. She has tried to move on with her life. She looked for distractions, changed her routine, forced herself to forget. But it didn't work. Because you are there, present in the details, in the gestures, in the little things of daily life that bring you back without warning. She avoids looking at your social media, but sometimes she can't resist. She wonders if you miss her too, if you've forgotten, if you found someone new, if you still think of her as she thinks of you. And every time she sees that you're online, doubt creeps in. Are you thinking of her too? Did the thought of sending a message cross your mind for just a second? Time has passed, but some things don't change, and this connection is one of them. She feels it in her skin, in her dreams, in moments of silence. And do you want to know the truth? If you sent her a message right now, her heart would race. She would be at a loss for what to do, not knowing how to react, because a part of her has always waited for this. But you don't message, and neither does she. And that pride, that insecurity, that fear of seeming vulnerable, all of it keeps you both apart. Until when? Because deep down, you both know this story isn't over yet. Fate has given all the possible signs, but you continue to ignore them. You keep pretending not to feel anything. What if it's too late by the time one of you decides to act? If that person knew how much you think of her, would you gather the courage? Would you break the silence? And what about you? Do you really want to keep going like this, carrying this doubt? Or are you going to do something before it's too late? What if I told you that this person is waiting for a sign from you? That even without admitting it, she hopes that somehow you'll break this silence. Have you thought about that? About what might be going through her mind right this moment? She pretends she doesn't feel. She pretends everything is fine. She pretends she has moved on. But every time someone mentions her name, something inside her reacts. Her heart tightens. Her thoughts freeze. Memories come back, even when she doesn't want them to. She has tried to feel for other people what she felt for you. She tried to find that same connection, that same shiver, that same way of getting lost in someone's gaze. But she couldn't, because some connections can't be replaced. And you? What do you feel when you hear her name? Because I know that no matter how much you try to act like you don't care, something inside you moves too. Pride makes you hesitate to take the first step. But what if she is waiting as well? How many sleepless nights has this person spent thinking about you? How many times has she tried to understand why, after all this time, she still feels your presence? How many times has she asked herself if you still think of her? And you know what's even stranger? Even apart somehow, you still find each other. A familiar name pops up out of nowhere. A song plays at just the right moment. A memory surfaces unexpectedly. Do you feel that? Because she does. And you know what else? She wonders if this is a sign, if fate is trying to say something. But she is afraid of looking foolish for still feeling, afraid of being rejected, afraid of discovering that you no longer care. So she does nothing. She waits. She keeps it all to herself. But if she knew that you felt it too, what do you think she would do? Have you thought about this? Have you considered what could happen if just one of you had the courage to take the first step? Fate can bring paths together, but it cannot make decisions for you. And this connection, how long will you both ignore it? Because there are things that have been left unsaid, feelings that have not been resolved, moments that never truly came to an end. And deep down you know this. Now tell me, are you going to keep pretending that none of this is real? Or are you finally going to do something about it? What if tomorrow it's too late? What if this person, tired of waiting, decides to move on for good? What if she chooses to erase all the memories, take you out of her mind, tear your name out of her heart, and never look back? Could you live with that? Because the truth is, despite all the indecision, all the distance, and all the silence, there's still a bond. And bonds like that don't break easily. She misses you, but she also feels exhausted. Because no one can live waiting forever. What if one day she wakes up and realizes that it can't go on, that no matter how strongly she felt, you never did anything to show that you feel the same? Have you thought about that? Have you imagined what it would be like to know that this person tried as hard as she could, but in the end, she gave up? You don't know what's going on in her head right now. You don't know what she thinks before she sleeps, or how many times she rehearsed sending a message and backed out at the last second. But what if she decided to try one last time? What if she's waiting for just a small sign from you to know it's still worth pushing for? Do you think she would wait forever? Time passes, things change, people change. What is still strong today might become a faded memory tomorrow. And then one day you might wake up and realize that you've lost something you will never find again. Because yes, you can move on. You can meet other people, live other stories, but some connections are unique. What if this is your only chance to salvage something that still has a chance? Are you willing to risk losing it forever? What if one day you look back and realize you lost the only person who truly felt something real for you? Not because you wanted to, but because you let time decide for you. Because you waited too long. Because you thought there would always be a tomorrow, a right moment, a perfect opportunity. But what if that opportunity never comes again? You feel it. That restlessness, that constant presence, that connection that never completely disappeared. You've tried to ignore it, to move on, to fill your mind with other things, but something always brings you back to that person. A detail, a thought, a name that pops up unexpectedly, a moment when, without realizing it, you catch yourself remembering. And the strangest part? They feel the same. Maybe they don't admit it, maybe they don't show it, but they feel it. Because some connections don't fade just because someone chose to take a different path. Some people leave a mark on us that can't be erased. But how long are you going to pretend you don't see the signs? You can keep fooling yourself, telling yourself that you've moved on. You can ignore the times their name comes up out of nowhere, the coincidences, the thoughts that keep coming back. But a part of you knows the truth. This never really ended. What's missing? What's stopping you from taking action? Is it the fear of not being reciprocated? Is it pride, not wanting to be the first to give in? But what if that person is feeling exactly the same way? What if they're also waiting for a sign, for a move from you? How many times have they been about to reach out to you and backed out at the last second? How many times have they picked up their phone, typed a message, and deleted it before sending? How many nights have they spent wondering if you still think about them? What if you're both just waiting for each other? Because fate can put someone in your life, can create meetings, can make paths cross. But fate doesn't make decisions for you. That's your responsibility. And what if you miss this chance? What if one day you wake up and realize she's really moved on? That she found someone else, learned to live without you and stopped waiting? Because at some point the heart gets tired. Even those who feel deeply, even those who truly care. Eventually, they get tired. And then you'll notice what you've lost. You'll realize you could have done something, but you didn't. You'll see that you stood still, waiting for a perfect moment that never came. Can you live with that? Because I tell you, few things are more painful than the regret of something you could have done but didn't. Time passes. People change. What is here today may not be here tomorrow. What if it were a sign? What's stopping you from sending a message right now, from breaking that silence, from putting your pride aside and just expressing how you feel? If you knew that this person still thinks about you, that they still miss you, would you do something differently? Because this could be your last chance. Do you want to take that risk? Have you ever gone through something like this? Do you feel that connection still exists? Comment below. I want to hear your story. I want to know if you've lived this, if you still feel something, if you believe that some connections never truly break. And if this message resonated with you, if it touched something you felt, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That way I can bring you more content like this, more messages that speak directly to you. But before you go, think carefully. Are you going to keep waiting for fate to decide for you? Or will you gather the courage before it's too late?